I was going to suggest you do that anyway.
Good morning. Today is the 25th day of Sivan, the 14th of June. And we're starting a new, very, very short mimer, which we know all the details from. We already know it because we've learned a lot of Alter Rebbe. There's going to be almost nothing new here. Although the end, the application, just click it. That's not it. Just leave it there. Anyway. So the verse says that after this whole thing happened with Korach, the aftermath of the whole rebellion of the Levites, Korach and his friends and the sons of Reuven, and they rebelled against Moshe Rabbeinu. So at some point, the people, the regular Jews, gave up, and they said, "Aim tamnu ligvoa," like this thing called the tabernacle in the middle is not a great idea. No, that's after the Ketzarim. It's after everything. So then they have this idea. They're saying, who thought up this great idea of putting a tabernacle in the middle of where we live? It's a hazard. It's a hazard because anybody who touches anything, who does anything. So what is this whole idea? Where did you get this idea? You have to do something about it. So Moshe Rabbeinu reiterates the commandment to the Levites that they have to keep watch over the tabernacle. And it's interesting when the Rambam talks about keeping watch. He says not because in the temple they also kept watch. There were 24 places, 3 of which were by the priests and 21 by the Levites. And he says that it's not that the temple needs anybody to safeguard it, because God's there. It's just a derech kavod, right? It's just an honor for it, like to have the queen's guards. It's just honor. But that's not what it sounds like here. They have a real duty. What's a real duty? To prevent people from wandering in and touching all kinds of things, and then saying, "But my hand came off, and I don't understand why," or something like that. So there is so what is he saying? He's saying really this is because they I don't know what they did during the day in the temple. It doesn't say. But what the Rambam is talking about there is keeping guard during the night. And during the night the gates are closed. There's nobody there anyway. So that's why he has to say that the temple doesn't need safeguarding because there's nobody there at the time. But during the day, apparently there are no 24 places. I'm saying, again, something that I don't remember him saying.
All open,
right. So they were everywhere, the Levites. The Levites were everywhere. They were pretty much dispersed over the entire temple, and they were watching everywhere. And the same thing is like in the tabernacle. It wasn't one specific place that they sat down, and that's where they, it's not like 24 spots that they had. They were everywhere. They were sprawled all over, making sure that nobody touched something they weren't supposed to touch or went into some place that they didn't need to go into. And then when he reiterates this, he says, so they don't just have a job when the tabernacle is being carried from place to place. They have a job all the time. What's their job all the time? Theoretically, their job all the time is to keep watch. But they did other things as well. They also sang in the courtyard. But those were their 2 jobs: to shomrim or shoarim as they're called, and meshorerim, and the ones who were keeping the gates or watching, and the ones who are singing. And there shouldn't be a situation in which the Jewish people come close to anything in the tabernacle that is forbidden and will come to death. And then he says, ועבד הלוי הוא את עבודת אוהל מועד, והם יישאו עוונם חוקת עולם לדורותיכם, ותוך בני ישראל לא ינחלו נחלה. Literally the translation is, and the Levite shall work, he alone, the service of the tabernacle. There shouldn't be anyone else involved in this, just them. Okay, so that makes a lot of sense. No, we're talking just about the Levites. The priests have their thing. What?
It wasn't just the Levite.
It's just here. It's not talking about the Kohen. Here it's talking about the Levites. It's all about these sections are all about the Levites. We already had our death of the priests and the aftermath of that in Leviticus, right? In Vayikra, we had all that. Now in Bamidbar, the focus is more on the Levites and on the priests. Priests are not part here. They're not. It's just that the Levites suddenly came, and Korach and his entourage, they opposed the appointment of Aaron to be a priest. But in principle, the whole thing is about the Levites. It's not about the priests. Okay, so now let's see what the Alter Rebbe does with this. So if you open up Torah Or, which is Likutei Torah, which is much later, so you see that he goes in the same basic direction, but with different conclusions, or not conclusions that are different. He doesn't say anything different, but he takes it, this association that we'll see in a moment, and he builds other things from it. Like he constructs a whole different understanding from it. But the basic association is always the same, that the Levites are the left side and the priests are the right side. That's the basic association everywhere. And it's taken in different ways. So even the mimer in Likutei Torah is very, very short on the same pasuk. V'avad HaLevi. It literally means, it's like a very mysterious wording, because it just says V'avad HaLevi. Why do you need the who? But when you say that, all it means is only he shall. That's like what you're trying to say. V'avad HaLevi who? Only he. It's like you don't need the only in Hebrew. So you just say who? Just he. But because of the strange wording, I think it's one of the only times in the entire Tanakh that this type of wording comes. Although, again, you could use it in day-to-day language, so it's always become something spectacular and phenomenal. In any case, so let's see what he says. Avodat HaLevim hi bashir. Haya bashir. What?
You didn't read Pasuk Chof Dalet.
בסדר, כי את כל מעשר בני ישראל אשר הרימו להשם תרומה נתתי ללוויים לנחלה. על כן אמרתי להם בתוך בני ישראל לא ינחלו נחלה. Like I said, this is just about the Levites, and so they have their meiser, they have their 10th of the produce that they receive, and that's why they don't need to till the land. They don't need land.
Their meiser was much smaller than the Kohen.
No, it's a true 10th. The true 10th. So first you have what you give to the Levite, Maaser Rishon. And Maaser Rishon is a true 10th. You also have to give a truma to the Kohen, and the Levite gives to a trumat Maaser to the Kohen. So the Kohen doesn't really receive as much as the Levite; he gets less. But because he has a truma, and the truma has no ratio to it. So it could be that if you have a Kohen who's your friend, like you're my friend, so I would give you a lot, right? But there's no injunction that you had to. But the true meiser was the Levi. In any case, Avodat HaLevim haya bashir leorer hamidot. So the Levites, like we said, they had two jobs here: to guard and to sing, and so they are actually connected one to another, and we'll see how. So what does song do? Song awakens the heart. That's the purpose of song.
That's chesed, no?
Why?
Awakening a person.
Chesed is already an awakening, but to awaken, like what causes the awakening of the heart, he says that song. And ki bashir kalul kol hamidot, because in song you have all the different varieties of song. So usually we divide it into longing and joy, songs of longing and songs of joy. But really, there's many genres. Saying longing and joy is just a very, very general division of music. Music can do many things. It's true that's how it's either a major scale or a minor scale. Either longing, which is a minor, or your joy, which is a major. So in music theory, they also do the same thing. That it's sort of like these are the two basics, and every musical sentence is like usually has a resolution, which is its opposite. So you start off with either joy and with a major, then you go to the minor, or you start with a minor, you go to the major. It's usually how music is built. But still, there are many types. So he says, in music can awaken love and fear and joy also. And joy is a little bit confusing here, but yes, okay, so it's joy. Again, love and fear would be like longing. In general, they would be the longing. And when man is awakened from below, then God is awakened from above. And that's the general idea behind the service of the Levites with song. But now, what do we extrapolate from this? That the song is related to bina, hitbonenut. Because there's no difference whether you're awakening the heart by contemplating with the sefirah of bina, of understanding, or whether you're taking music and using it to awaken the heart. The end result is the same, that the heart is awakened and you feel things. Right? What's the big difference? This is, I think this was surprising to me as a child, that adults have a problem feeling anything. I still remember as a child that I didn't remember why, I couldn't understand why it was that adults needed, why did people take drugs, why did they do this, I couldn't understand why in the world they would need this. Because as a child, you're full of emotion all the time. And as you get older, the emotion sort of dies down. And so people, for instance, need to drink, they need to take mashka in order to begin to feel something. Otherwise, they're like drooped. They're like, don't feel anything. The Rebbe used to try to awaken people to even voice against atrocities, which is hard to do with an adult. As long as it's not happening to me, I'm not awakened. As long as it's not happening to me. Like I thank God it's not happening to me, whatever the atrocity is. So when you become an adult, there's a problem. There's a problem with the heart. It doesn't awaken so easily. So what are the two things that awaken the heart? So you have to have contemplation. That's the usual Hasidic way, which is that by learning, by understanding the issues. Like in politics, you would say you have to understand the issues. When you understand the issues, then you begin to care. Another way of saying today, to awaken the heart would be that I care, that I give a something, right? Otherwise, people say, I don't give anything. That's how people are. So how do you awaken them? You have to teach them. You have to learn. You have to contemplate. It's not just enough to give the information. Even the information is very nice, but now I want you to contemplate. There was a book that was written in Vienna in the 1910s, 1911, something like that, 12. It was called Na'ei HaNefesh B'Asagat HaChasidut. Wrote it a Chassid of Jikov. And Vienna was the happening place in the turn of the century, of the 20th century. So there's a ton of stuff was going on there. A lot of Rebbes lived there. It was a big deal. And so he wrote a book. He said how to bring people to feel something. That's what Chasidus means. Chasidus means mean when we say it's the way of the heart. What do we mean that it's the way of the heart? It's the way to awaken the heart, to care, to actually care about something. Because most people are like that. So why doesn't, when a person davens, why does he just say the words and he doesn't cry? Because he doesn't care. Right now, he's either he doesn't have any problems, which is uncommon, or he just doesn't care anymore. Okay, these are the problems, I have to carry them, and so on. All the more so if it's someone else's problem. I certainly don't care. What, am I going to cry now about somebody else? What's a Rebbe? A Rebbe is someone that when you come to him with a problem, he actually cares. And it hurts him. And sometimes it's very painful for him, and he doesn't know what he can do. So what does he do? He just does what a Jew does. He cries out to Hashem. What can I do? I can't solve your problem. If it's a physical ailment, I'm not a doctor. I don't know what to do. And if it's a emotional or psychological problem, what can I do for it? I can maybe strengthen you now, give you some words of encouragement. But really, if I want to heal you, what can I do? I can only turn to Hashem. But most people don't turn to Hashem. Why? Because they don't care. They gave up a long time ago. But Chasidus means that I do care. I do care, and I'm not gonna stay quiet until something moves, until something changes. That's what Chasidus is. All these people that come back to you, that you helped as teenagers or as young adults, or this or that. What do they see? They see somebody who cares. That's what they see. They don't think you're a miracle worker. But we know that if someone cares, it's a big difference than if somebody doesn't care. So that's Chasidus. That's what Chasidus really means in the world. So I have to care about what the sages say something in the Talmud. So somebody reads over it and says, oh, I've said it's a gadita. It's like, oh, they have all kinds of strange statements. You don't have to listen to them. But the Chassid, he says, they didn't waste the paper because they had to fill paper. There's something they wanted to say here. What is it? I care. I want to understand what they said. A lot of people care about like legal things, and I want to understand it all the way because this was very, very rewarding to be able to understand the legal discussion in the Talmud and in the Halacha. It's a big deal. It's very rewarding. It causes a lot of joy. It's also bina. It's also understanding, but it's not understanding that necessarily awakens the heart. And the understanding that awakens the heart is that I care about what's going on in the world. I care about other people. Even about my own things, I still care. Like I'm not willing, like a lot of people say, Hasidus didn't work. Why? Because nothing changed. He says, you're right. The chances of you being able to actually change something in your constitution, in your character, and this and that is very small. You have to do a lot of work. But you know what changed? That you could have been like everyone who doesn't care that this is the way they are. And that changed. You're a different person because of that. So he wrote this book it's called Tna'ei HaNefesh B'Hashagat HaChasidut. How the mental construct should be so that a person reaches Chasidus. So what does he write? He says it's all about caring. He doesn't say those words, unfortunately, because at that time, in 1910, I guess they didn't know how to say that. So he says, you have to imagine you see the entire globe. The entire world. And now he says, home in on India. He goes to India for some reason. He says, and see that there's a wedding going on. And try to care about the wedding. What do you mean care about the wedding? That you feel the joy of the chassan, you feel the joy of the kala. On purpose, I think he took something that was very, very far, or was being talked about at the time in Vienna, which is, what's the connection between a European Jew and India in 1910? There's no connection. It says if you can't feel the joy of someone else there, you certainly are not, you haven't reached Chasidus yet. And he tries to show how by contemplation, by contemplating the situation and understanding what they're going through, how they waited all these years for this and that, and imagine whatever you want, then you're awakened and you feel the joy too. If you can't awaken, so they're not a chassid. You don't care. And so this is the idea here. By song, you come to awaken all the emotions. We're right. That's why people go to concerts today. That's why they're moved by music. That's why they have to have music. That's why you have Apple Music and Google Music and this music and that music, all the soundtracks ever recorded, because people feel that this is what keeps me alive. There's something here that awakens me. So that was part of what they did. But really, the equivalent day to day, especially when you don't have music or you don't have good music to listen to, the equivalent is contemplation, is thought with understanding, with bina. It does more than actually the music. Music, you're passive. But when you contemplate, when you try to understand something, like again, this meditation that this guy had, I can't remember his name, Zuckerman, I think, or Kurman, I don't know, something like that, in Vienna, when you contemplate a situation and you try to feel what the people there are feeling, that is a direct experience. In Chabad, we don't try to feel the experience. We try to understand the underpinnings of the situation. And through the underpinnings to come to emotion. So this is like a very early description of what the Levim are doing.
But then again, not quite on the same line. It's just interesting, the Chofetz Chaim said that every single time you ever learn the halacha,
He then went and put it into practice.
Right,
He
right,
didn't
right,
just read it.
right.
It affected him. So
Right, right.
the whole
But there it's not in the Chagat, it'll be in the Nehi, in the Netzach Hod Yesod, right? And to do it. Right.